Hello everybody and welcome back to Team Vikavolt's YouTube channel. In today's video we're going to be going over a winning deck list for EN's Zoroark EX. I almost said GX because the trade ability is indeed going to come back, but on a little bit different of a Zoroark. It's been a super hyped deck and it's winning a few tournaments here and there over in Japan. The jury currently is still out whether or not Journey Together Trainers Pokemon are necessarily like a super big deal in the competitive side of things, but I'm going to go ahead and let you, the viewer, decide that for yourself. Before we jump into it, let me just remind everybody ever so kindly that I have done a ton of videos on a ton of competitive post-rotation deck lists that might pique your interest, so go ahead and take a look at the links in the description down below, and let's get into this little deck list which centers around EN's Zoroark EX. It has the ability Trade, which if you've been in the competitive scene for a little while was the same exact ability on Zoroark GX once upon a time, but here it is on the EX, which states that you discard a card from your hand in order to use the ability, and then you draw 2 cards. And then we have a singular attack for 2 Dark Energy Night Joker. Choose one of your benched EN's Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. So right away you know that the whole crux of this deck is going to be utilizing your EN's Pokemon's attacks strategically, case-by-case basis throughout a game for cheaper, for only 2 Darkness Energy. You can still use the actual Pokemon that whose attacks you are copying, but more on that here in just a second. So overall, a pretty powerful attack. We saw something similar to this on Mew VMAX back in the Fusion Strike era, and we all know that that deck was super duper good. It even won a World Championships, and so I expect EN's Zoroark EX to do pretty well for itself. It does have a double weakness to grass types, which might come into play, especially since TERA box is going to be a pretty big deal, it seems, post-rotation in the standard format, so maybe Teal Mask Ogerpon EX puts this deck in check in a competitive scene, but again, the jury is still out, and I will let you, the viewer, decide that for yourself. So the Pokemon that you're going to want to be copying include EN's Reshiram and a few others. So EN's Reshiram, looking so majestic, so cool, has powerful Rage for a Lightning and a Fire Energy, 20 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon, kind of like the old Zekrom and Reshiram from the Black and White era, if you've been around that long. And then for 2 Fire, a Lightning, and a Colorless, Virtuous Flame does 170 damage. More than likely, you're going to be leading with the Virtuous Flame, 170 damage attack, but if your Zoroark EX gets damaged, you could potentially go for a powerful Rage attack as well. Again, you're copying the attacks for 2 Darkness Energy, so even though that Virtuous Flame attack on EN's Reshiram has a pretty hefty attack cost, you're not really going to worry about that too much because you're just copying it like 99% of the time with Zoroark EX. In addition to that, we have EN's Darmanitan for 2 Colorless Energy. Backdraft does 30 damage for each energy card in your opponent's discard pile, so very mid to late game type of attacker. And then for 2 Fire Energy and a Colorless Energy, Darmanican does 90 damage, and you discard all energy from this Pokemon. It does 90 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon as well. And so there you have it. It's like a 90-90, discard all the energy. If you're using Night Joker, then you're discarding 2 Darkness Energy in order to copy Darmanican. So not bad bench snipe, especially if you end up with a Darmanitan towards the early game. Maybe you can snipe some stage 1s or something like that on the bench, because again, we're not going to have any bench protection for like the next 2 months or something like that before the next set drops. And yeah, so that's EN's Darmanitan, the other key component to this Night Joker EN's Zoroark EX deck. And then we have some supporter cards, or supporting cards, I should say, especially in the ever so infamous EN's PP Up You attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to one of your benched ENDS Pokemon. This is a great way to fuel up other Night Joker attacks to be able to continue to stream Night Joker attacks, even if your active ends up getting knocked out. I mean, it just keeps keeps things going in terms of the whole shtick of this deck. And then you also have ENDS Castle, which gives ENDS Pokemon in play no retreat cost. Free retreat is always a good thing, and it's especially powerful to have a stadium card that only pertains it only pertains to ENDS Pokemons. So if you have this stadium card in play, obviously stadiums are for both you and your opponent to be able to utilize, but if your opponent simply is not using any ENDS Pokemon, then, well, that means that they don't get the benefit of free retreat with ENDS Castle. And so here we have a very interesting situation in the Pokemon TCG where a stadium can actually benefit only one player instead of both. Pretty cool inclusion. And then we have the list. This is an IRL list. This list did win a City League over in Japan. I think it was about a week or two ago. And here we have the list. I'm going to mark it up a little bit since this is an actual photo and not like a nice and neat digital sort of rendition of the deck list. If that bothers you, sorry. I'll try to find one that's not a real life sort of thing in the future, but I'm going to go ahead and get my handy dandy pen here. So here we have the ENDS Zoroark EX. We're going to be running 3 of those, 4 copies of Zorua, which of course evolves into Zoroark EX. When it comes to the supporting Pokemon, when it comes to the supporting Pokemon, we have a full art copy of the ENDS Reshiram right here. We have 2 copies of the Darmanitan, 3 copies of Darumaka, because you are going to have to still evolve those Darmanitan in order to copy it with Night Joker with Zoroark EX. And then for some helpful retreat types of things, we have an interesting inclusion of a Petrarut EX, which would allow you to retreat and then poison at the same time. Poison yourself, that is, at the same time. You do run the Monkey Dory with that in order to move off some of that poison damage onto your opponent's Pokemon in order to set up knockouts a little bit more easily. You are also running Pheasantipity EX, you're running Badoo. Those sorts of things are kind of self-explanatory. You just want to be able to draw even more cards. But Pheasantipity EX does also open up the possibility of some bench sniping types of attacks, because it does actually have an attack that snipes the bench for 100 on 2 bench Pokemon, if I remember correctly. This card right here, if I can figure it out, there is a little bit of glare. I did look at this before recording, but now I'm blanking just a little bit. Yeah, it's not gonna let me zoom. I'm sorry that I can't recognize this card right here. If I had to say, I would say it's another Monkey Dory, maybe. Maybe, just maybe. I might be wrong about that. I deeply apologize for that. My bad, everybody. My bad. And then when you come over here to the trainers, we are looking at 4 Iono, looks like 4 Arven, 4 Iono, 2 Counter Catcher, 2 Boss's Orders, 1 Power, what's the name of that card? The Time Glass one, the one that Power Glass, that's what it's called. It's called Power Glass. It says that at the end of your turn, you can attach a basic energy from your discard pile to your active Pokemon. That's what it does. You are also running Defiance Band. You're running TM Devolution. You're running... That one's a mystery. Moonlit Hill, maybe? A Moonlit Hill? That doesn't quite add up. Not too sure what that card is either. Again, this is a photograph. I couldn't find a list for this in a nice, neat version. So again, my deepest apologies. You are running the ace spec of choice is Hyper Aroma to be able to, you know, set up those Zoroark EXs. I keep wanting to say GX. Zoroark EXs as soon as possible, so that then you can just start using trade really early in the game. You're running 5 copies of basic darkness energy, and then interestingly enough 3 copies of reversal energy, which will work on a Darmanitan. It makes it a lot easier to power up, and it also makes it a lot easier to power up well, that's it, just Darmanitan. I was about to say Zoroark EX, but you can't actually use reversal energy on an EX Pokemon, so duly noted. Alright, and that's 4 copies of NPP up in order to accelerate those energies, and so on and so forth. So it's a pretty straightforward deck. It's pretty turbo. You don't really have very many draw supporters in this deck, because Zoroark EX is your draw support for the whole deck, as well as your main attacker, which is part of what made it so great back in the day when it was Zoroark GX instead of EX. So it seems pretty interesting. Not too sure if this is going to be, a game-breaking card, but it's definitely really interesting. Seems pretty cool. I think it would be absolutely bonkers if it were not limited to ENS Pokemon. That would be pretty tragic to the standard format, I think. But yeah, here it is. Here's the list. Again, it is a winning list over from Japan City League. City League 4, I believe, is the designation for it. And huge shout out while I'm here to @bot_Raji, who posted their list over on x.com, on Twitter, and shared it with the whole world. So there we have it. I can get my mouse back up in here, and that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed the list. I hope you find it at least useful as a starting point if you yourself are interested in playing some ENS Zoroark EX shenanigans here come post-rotation. Journey Together is, I think, currently doing pre-releases, but officially releases in about a week's time, so very, very exciting. Lots of hyped cards from this set, but let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think that they're going to be super good, competitively speaking? Do you think they're just kind of fun and interesting? Let me know what your take is down in the comments below. Yeah, so thanks so much for being here. Check out those other links in the description. Check out the other vids and get yourself some nice free lists. And if you feel so inclined, go ahead and leave a sub. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.